Hello everyone, and welcome to the Shenanigans. Today we are going to be discussing and reviewing Darkness in the Blood by Guy Haley. The latest, I guess, Blood Angels novel. It's hard to say for several reasons, and I'll explain why. First and foremost, I just want to say this is kind of going to be a spoiler alert because I am going to be reviewing some of the nitty-gritty details of this book and what happens in this book. So if you have not read or heard what happens in Darkness in the Blood yet, well, read it for yourself and then come back and watch this video later. On that note, though, so if you follow 40K, if you follow particularly Blood Angels lore, you know that Darkness in the Blood originally came out 2 years ago. And it only was released on a very, very limited special edition hardcover with all sorts of cool stuff that came with it for, I think it was something like $400 US. Which was insane. And I wanted it because there was a lot of cool stuff that came in that box set. And I really love following the Blood Angels lore, specifically revolving around Dante. And Guy Haley is kind of the official word on that. So I was very, very upset for the past 2 years that, one, they never released the regular hardcover edition. And two, they only released the paperback version, which is what I have, about a month ago, give or take. So for 2 years, I've had to try and avoid the spoilers, at least what I thought were going to be spoilers from the book. So lo and behold, my surprise when I finally get my hands on the book and I realize, hey, this takes place before Mephiston's City of Light. So if you read Blood Angels novels and you read Mephiston novels, there was a trilogy that had been released over the last couple of years, leading up to the one titled City of Light, which occurs after this book. So I was a little perturbed when I started reading Darkness in the Blood, and spoiler again, Mephiston hadn't yet crossed the Rubicon Primaris. He hadn't become the Primaris version that we know and love. So that was very confusing at the first part. Secondly, the story kind of starts with an instance where Mephiston loses control of his abilities and supposedly caused several members of their battle group to succumb to the Black Rage, which was shocking to them. Oops, I hit the microphone, sorry. Which was shocking to them. Again, going back to City of Light, it was already established that the Primaris Marines were not immune to the Black Rage. They had discovered at that point that the flaw still existed within the Primaris Marines. And so I had the whole time reading this book, I was going back and forth between, okay, this book is before City of Light. I had to keep reminding myself that because it was very irritating that they're telling me things like shocking things that I already knew. So, and that's partly, I guess, my fault, maybe, for reading City of Light first, but City of Light released like a normal book did. It released like, here's the hardcover, and like 3 or 4 months later, here's the paperback. Whereas this book, like I said, came out 2 bloody years ago, and we just finally got the paperback now. I digress. So that part was really confusing. Secondly, I avoided spoilers as best I could, and everyone I talked to was kind of like, oh, there's big things that happen in the book, yada yada, you don't want to spoil it for yourself. Honestly, I finished the book and I was very disappointed. Because one of the things I had been talking about is I would love to see Dante cross the Rubicon Primaris, become a Primaris Marine, or at the very least, he deserves a new model in the tabletop, because his model is still the old resin cast from a metal mold, and it's awful. I shouldn't say it's awful, it's just not great. They could definitely do a better job. When they released the new Mephiston model in plastic, absolutely gorgeous model. I highly recommend you buy the model if you're just an enthusiast at all, whether or not you play Blood Angels. It's a gorgeous model. But Dante needs a new model because he's the chapter master. And so a lot of people were alluding to, and what I thought was going to happen is I thought Dante was going to die in this book, which if you read, Dante, if you read Devastation of Baal, he really wants to die, basically. He's tired. He's over 1,500 years old, and all of that time has been spent fighting and struggling to help keep not only the Blood Angels alive, but the Imperium itself alive. And now he's become regent of the Imperium Nihilus. He's in charge of basically half the galaxy. And he's exhausted. He's an old space marine, oldest living space marine outside of a dreadnought that hasn't fallen to chaos. And so he kind of wanted to die. And that's where I thought the book was leading up to. I thought, either it was going to end in some climactic battle where Mephiston, comes in with his new powers, but isn't in time to save Dante or something, or that Dante was going to attempt to cross the Rubicon Primaris and was going to die in the process because the process, again, isn't guaranteed to be successful. But no, none of that happened. They did have like an epic climactic battle, but it was like any other 40K novel. It was just, okay, Space Marines fight things, Space Marines eventually win, suffer casualties, but the main characters survive. Mephiston shows off his new powers, and Dante is old and beaten up, but he's still fine, apparently. And so, I don't know. Again, this is obviously all spoiler stuff, so hopefully you stopped listening if you were trying to avoid spoilers, but, nothing against Guy Haley, because this book was very well written. It was definitely to the standard that I expect from Black Library novels in general, but particularly to Guy Haley himself, because, again, he's a very good writer. He's written Dante and Devastation of the Ball, which are my two favorite 40K novels, and it tells the story. And it does, I will say, it does tell the story more of how Dante came to be chapter master, because basically what had happened is all the other captains were killed in this climactic event, and he was the only captain left, and that's why he was kind of promoted to chapter master. But there was a lot of resistance from the chaplaincy, from the Council of Bone and Blood, and the Red Council, but he kind of had to, because he was the only one who could, and how reluctant he was to take that position. And it parallels another character that they introduce in the novel, an admiral. I can't remember his name, honestly, because he wasn't that interesting of a character. But basically, this similar thing is happening to this character. He made this mistake, cost the lives of a lot of his soldiers, and all the horrible things he's seen, warp entities, demons, and whatnot, don't compare to how he felt about losing his men and failing his men. And so it parallels that, and that's why Dante's telling this guy these stories, because he wants him to be kind of the head admiral of the Imperium Nihilist fleet. He needs him to, at the very least, remain a figurehead, because he's this, great imperial hero, and Dante needs that to help bolster the fleet and the Imperium Nihilists. And so that much at least was very interesting, I think. But that, at least to me, was, I don't know, that was kind of the only really engaging thing in this novel, because again, having read City of Light, there's already things that I know that are going to happen, characters that are mentioned that I know, meet their doom in City of Light. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like if it had been released when it should have been released, maybe I would have enjoyed the book more, because, that's when suddenly I discovered that, Primaris Marines are not immune to the Black Rage. And, that would have been shocking then, because that was my understanding upon 8th edition, and especially at the end of Devastation of Ball, when Gilliman comes in and he replenishes, the Blood Angels with the Primaris Blood Angels. And supposedly at the time, that was the understanding, was, the flaw hasn't shown itself, and yada yada. So I do think that's part of why I didn't enjoy this novel as much as I would have. If I had been able to get it before reading City of Light, I can definitely see myself enjoying it a lot more. But again, the issue is, it just didn't contain any new information for me. Like I said, it did have some more information about Dante's backstory, about Dante ascending to Chapter Master of the Blood Angels, but, is it really necessary to have a whole novel for that? And again, like I said, I think the biggest issue here is just the release schedule. If they had released the paperback, or even, again, just the normal hardcover alongside the premium edition hardcover, whatever, I think it would have been a lot more smooth. But since, this came out so late, and especially because, within the game itself, they already established that Primaris Marines can fall to the Black Rage because they released the Death Company Intercessors. And it was the second Blood Angels Codex for 8th edition, before 9th edition even started. They released, that was when they released the new Mephiston model, and that was when they announced the Primaris Death Company Intercessors. It's a mouthful. So nothing in this book really was a surprise, and that was, kind of disappointing to me. Like, yeah, okay, and then the rest of it is just like normal stuff you see in a Space Marine book, battling, forces of chaos, battling demons, battling Xenos. And again, nothing, not to detract from how well written this book is. This is a very well written book. Guy Haley is a experienced author. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to tell a good story. It's just, I don't know. For me, at least, it just seemed like it was poor timing. And I was, again, I had to wait 2 years for this book, so I had a lot of expectations, and I just feel let down. So, I feel like I'm dragging on. So, in summary, I recommend it's a good read, certainly. Assuming that you still want to read it after all of the spoilers, quote unquote. Like I said, there wasn't really anything spoiling about it, because if you follow 40K at all, you know most of what happens in this book. So, but still a very good book to read. I recommend you read it if you enjoy 40K novels at all, particularly if you enjoy Blood Angels and Dante and Mephiston. It's a solid read. But for your average 40K enthusiast reader, you can probably skip it, honestly. It doesn't really contain any new information that you don't see outside of the game already. That being said, I look forward to, I'm hoping that Guy Haley is writing another Blood Angels book, particularly revolving around Dante. I'm hoping that GW kind of, comes to the realization that, oh, hey, we haven't had a new Dante figure in a decade. I don't honestly remember when that last Dante figure was released, but he needs a new figure, I think. Particularly if they're not killing him off. Like I said, I was honestly expecting them to kill off Dante in this book, and they didn't. So he needs a new figure, or they need to put him in a dreadnought. How awesome would that be to have Dante continue fighting as a chapter master dreadnought or something? How bizarre and amazing would that be? I realize it doesn't make sense because obviously it's like a second life, third life in Dante's case. But I don't know. Those are just my thoughts, and I'm kind of rambling. So, anyways, let me know what you guys thought of my review of the book. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you read the book yourself? If you haven't read the book, hopefully you didn't get upset by the spoilers. But like I said, there really wasn't anything crazy spoily to begin with. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, I appreciate it. And we'll see you all in the next video.